it did, so it's working. Excellent. Okay. Perfect. Alright. So, we'll get back. I'm gonna have to figure this out well in advance next time. Okay. So, let's get back to working on my Imperial Knight. So, I managed to go ahead and get the legs constructed, mostly constructed, which is nice. I won't be able to do the feet until it's time to do the basing, because I won't know how the orientation for the toes is going to have to go. But, according to my instructions here, pretty much all that's left, other than the feet itself, is the armor plating, then the tubing, which shouldn't be much of an issue at all, and banner, if I want to go for banner, and I'm not entirely certain that I do. So, I guess let's get the armor plating for the legs done first, and then we'll move on to the torso department. Oh, darn it. Okay, well, that's annoying. Because I do not have my hobby knife. Well, shoot. Okay. I will go grab that real fast. Give me 1 second. Okay, I bet that was absolutely riveting to anybody paying attention to that. Okay, so, Knight Defender time. First things first, I will need to get the tubing cut off here. Okay. Okie dokie, let's get started. So, 79 and 80. Oop, and then almost knocked my camera over. That would not be good. Okay, so, 79 and 80. Perfect. I don't know the best way to tackle these. I know mold lines are kind of a taboo amongst the more high-profile model builders. I do not know the best way to handle mold lines on textured pieces like this. So, I tend to just ignore them personally. Hope everyone's having a good day. It's been an interesting day for me, starting off this morning. We had pretty severe thunderstorms last night. A lot of hail, a lot of rain, a lot of wind. They said a few tornadoes touched down in the state, which is crazy to me because I think we broke a record for it. But yesterday, I had our power flicker us, which it had flickered a lot, so I ended up not resetting the clock on our oven and our microwave. Doc woke me up super early this morning. Excuse me, let me just... real fast. Okay, I'm getting messages. I'm going to tilt the camera. I deeply apologize. This is not going to be entertaining. Cut it real quick. Not fun. I apologize. I'm going to have to fix this. There we go. Sorry about that. I had an issue with my camera on my end. I don't know if it was coming across to you guys. I deeply apologize. Try to have a more professional setup than this. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so had a lot of thunderstorms last night, and the dog woke me up super early this morning. I thought it was because I had slept in past my alarm on my day off. Turns out, well, I get up and I go to feed the dogs as normal, let them out, because I'm like, okay, well, clearly it's early in the morning. I should have checked my phone. Spoiler alert. Turns out, it was 2:30 in the morning, not the usual 4:30 when I get up to feed the dogs, and I had been hoodwinked by our puppy, who was just whining like crazy because he wanted to get out and play. So, let them out, feed them, go back to bed, finally look at my phone before I lay back down. I'm like, oh, it's only 2:30. I have been hoodwinked into giving them breakfast. So, that'll be a lot of fun later, I'm sure. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Oh. Just gotta trim this one up now. So if any of you guys were in the South yesterday and you got a bunch of storms, I hope everything's okay. I'm sure that is not the funnest thing to have to survive through. I think that's looking pretty good. One of the things about these model kits I absolutely abhor is the lack of dynamic stances that these things come in. I often joke that the only two stances that an Imperial Knight comes in is Hang 10 and High Noon. Because I swear, depending on the orientation of the body, it looks like it's either gearing up for a duel at High Noon or you're about to go surfing, one of the two. That's one of the things I hope to accomplish with my Questoris Knights, is to get some good dynamic posing going on. This one is one I am struggling with, I have to admit. I'm not sure what to do for the Defender in terms of it. It's my first Questoris Knight I'm building that is 2 ranged weapons on it. Everything else is at least 1 melee weapon, so I have really nice dynamic posing with those. But this one, I think, will come out okay. I have an idea for, like, having this foot planted on a back rock, so it looks like it's in mid-stride, but we'll see if the vision comes together. I'm sure it will, but we'll see. 74 and 73, and then 61 and 62. Okay. Get this cut up here. Looks like a pretty clean and flush surface there. Cut into the plastic just a little bit, but not terribly. I think it'll be just fine. I always have a hard time with these curved just ever so gingerly pull the blade towards me, so I'm barely shaving any plastic off. Because I've cut into it so many times on other model kits that you can kind of tell there's a little bit of a gouge. But the magic of a fresh blade, I must say, cannot be understated. And the curse, too, because I don't know if it shows up on camera at all, but I've got a lot of healing cuts on the tip of my thumb, so those out there, please do be careful. Fresh hobby knives are a boon as well as a curse. There we are. So, hope everyone's doing okay today. Aside from the dogs giving me a very early morning run, I have to say it's been a pretty good day. Busy, but good. Had to take my wife to her job briefly to go pick something up, and ended up trapped on the highway on the way back. There's a pretty nasty wreck where they closed down the 2 lanes of the highway where she works, and we were there for about, I don't know, an hour and a half while waiting for traffic to finally clear up so we could get moving. Not fun. Don't appreciate getting stuck in traffic like that. There we are. Come on. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, oop, I had it upside down. Let's see. I think it should fit just fine. May need to shape it just a little bit, but I think we're good. What about this one? Let's check. Yeah, I cut into it just a little bit. I'll need to fix that. Barely carving into this to help fit the shape of the upper thigh, just a tad. Yeah. That'll be good, I think. I need to go back over that with a polisher, smooth that back out. I did not glue this thigh piece correctly. It's barely imperceptible, but this side is slightly higher and off-center from the inside of the thigh. So I've had to go back through and shave down the obvious lip of plastic. And you can feel the difference between this side and this side, which is a bit of a shame, but that's all part of the hobby. Okay. Let's get that thigh armor glued down. Not bad, I have to say. Okay. So there is one more section done. Let's go ahead and get the shin armor off. And then looks like next I work on the torso. Joy. If anyone hears any growling or howling in the background, I do apologize. The dog and the cat are now playing. And the cat tends to get fairly loud because the dog tends to get fairly aggressive. Playful, but aggressive. There we go. I've managed to build, excuse me, I've managed to build 3 of these, which is a lot of fun, I have to admit. I'm starting to get way faster at building these knights than I was when I first started, but I will say this. I have built 1 Cerastus knight, just a single one, and this shin piece always feels so tiny and wrong to me until I glue it on to the entirety of the knight, because the Cerastus is so large. Which, after this, I have to build another one. I have a Cerastus Acheron, so I've got a giant flamethrower knight, which is nice. And I have a Cerastus Castigator, which is my next knight. So after this Defender comes the Castigator, which is my second favorite knight that GW makes of all time. My favorite one is the Acastus Knight Porphyrion. Out there lurking has followed any of my content, you know. And it is my favorite model that GW makes, period. And I finally got one. So I'm going to do the Castigator first, and then I have about a week and change off of work coming up, and I'll be spending that time working on my Porphyrion, which will be a ton of fun. I'll be stressed out because I don't want to mess it up, but I'm much looking forward to working on that model. Much looking forward. That's proper English. That's the Queen's English. Okay, one more Spurgate here. If anyone out there can hear the music in the background, if it's too loud, just let me know. I do apologize. I'm still figuring out the best way to balance the audio on this, and I'm still figuring out the best way to use this microphone. So, if the music's too loud, if I'm too quiet, if it's both, or the other way around, let me know. I'd greatly appreciate it. Say, I think these kits are just nice. They're just so much fun to build. I get the appeal of building a massive army. Something like the Space Marines or Astra Militarum or Gene Stealer, Tyranids, Orcs. Like having a massive army, I see the appeal. I really do. But there is just something to be said about having a small unit count, high-value elite army that I think a lot of other factions tend to overlook, unfortunately. And the Knights are just one of those factions to me that are awesome because of that. There are no custodies or anything, and I know custodies have their fans, but for as niche as they are, I think the Imperial Knights are one of the coolest factions that GW has ever created, and I think they are criminally underrepresented in the hobby, both in terms of lore and in terms of tabletop. Lore-wise, I'm so mad at GW. They started a trilogy of books. I think it was started with Kingsblade, I think it was. There's supposed to be a trilogy of novels that was about Imperial Knights, and they wrote 2 of the 3, and they never finished the 3rd one. It was supposed to go Kingsblade, King's Wrath, and then Freeblade, I think it was, which I think is an interesting framework for a trilogy by calling it Freeblade, considering there are 3 types of knight houses, and one of those is a Freeblade company, where a knight has like forsaken their oaths and abandoned their house or had been exiled or whatever have you, which they never did write Freeblade, which is a shame. I am on the... Oh, final! Holy shit! What's up, bro? I'm on the quiet side. Let me balance OBS here real quick. Bring my volume up. Ooh, there we go. Is that better? Is that too loud? I know part of it's where I'm sitting in relation to the microphone. Alrighty. Okay. There we go. Alrighty. I hope that's not too loud. In my ear, I sound like I'm blowing out the microphone. So... Sweet. Sweet. Well, Final, what the fuck's up, dude? Well, shouldn't cuss, but... What's up, dude? There we go. Oh, come on. Gotta bend that back in place. There we go. I broke one of these anchor points the other day. It fell off. Just clearing off the desk and it knocked off the model and it snapped. Well, I've been working on my scripts for the video, and I keep hitting a brick wall, and I feel terrible because I want to post that lore content. I had a lot of people start to subscribe because of it. I mean, you included. And I keep hitting this brick wall. I'm aiming for about a 40-minute video, which is about 7,000 words. I have written over 7,000 words, but I keep deleting and restarting the same section over and over again. So while I'm still working on that, I have, and between that, helping my wife recover and prepping for the podcast, I was like, well, I can live stream while I'm building models, because I've just fallen into building all of my knights. All of my knights in the meantime, and I was like, well, if I'm just doing this, I could at least live stream and post some content. Let people know I'm still around. Coke Zero. That's good stuff. by the way, so just since you missed the last one, I convinced somebody to buy one of these on stream. He said he put it on Amazon, placed an order, it was coming in like 3 days. This is the best hobby tool I've ever had in my entire life. This makes so many things so much easier. I cannot recommend this enough. A Fantic, I think it's the F2 Master, which is the first version. There's a V1 and a V2. This is like a $60 one. Brother, let me tell you, I've got sanding bits, filing bits, polishing bits, drilling bits. I've got a spherical drill. I've got needle files. I've got drill bits. This has got some plastic on I need to cut off, but I got drill bits. This thing is amazing. And I need to get some cutting discs, but I can put them onto this bit, and I can actually use it to cut through the resin or plastic. So that's what I'll be using when I build the Porphyrion, which I will be doing on stream. I try to do it on my days off, so it's mostly Wednesdays, Thursdays, and I think I'm going to do Saturday nights. So feel free to drop by whenever you want if you have the time, and I'd be glad to have you. So there's the legs. I'll have to do the feet later because, well, I got to do the basing for that to figure out where I'm going to position the toes. And that's one of the most annoying things to me is redoing the toes, but I've gotten so much faster at it. Let me just hit my microphone with my instruction booklet like an idiot. Okay. Let's grab C. Here we go. I'm just going to keep hitting everything in sight. Okay, there we go. I should be able to handle that now. Oh, hope also you didn't mind the other day. I decided it would be funny after getting drunk and commenting on your reel to comment the exact same comment on your YouTube channel. So, hope that's okay. There we go. And then, here we go. I appreciate that, man. Thank you. Yeah, I think my ambition was just a little bit more than I could handle just with life going on at the moment. Things are starting to calm down now, which is good. So, I've been putting more time into working on the podcast stuff because, well, Josh is getting pretty close to finish where he needs to get the studio stuff ready to go. So once he's done with that, we're going to start doing recordings on that. And I'm still working on the lore script for the 40-minute video. The problem I keep running into for me is I want to find what kind of voice I want, what kind of style I want to do. And I thought it'd be at least a little bit irreverent like I was when I first started, but I think I'm going to lean more towards the more serious side of the lore stuff. I just don't want to come across like an authoritative source. So when I started writing the script, I started writing, funny comedy stuff, and it was more just essentially a ripoff of Pancreas No Work meets a little bit of Paul is Bad at Stuff. Which, I was like, well, it'd be great if I'm trying to be a copycat channel, but I want to try to find my own voice. There we go. probably shouldn't be so sucked into cutting off mold lines and just sitting here in awkward silence. Oh, final. I meant to ask you. So, obviously, you found Josh's Spruta Saga on Instagram, and he's actually getting really close to finishing his introductory channel video. He's been spending like the last 2 weeks working on it almost every day. Has he told you what the plan is for that channel yet? Because let me tell you, I think he's got a fantastic idea. Come on now. This is one stubborn sprue gate down here. There we go. Sorry for blowing directly into your ears, everybody. Okay. Oh, did he premiere it last night? Oh shit, what the fuck? He didn't tell me that, actually. He was working on it yesterday. Which is funny. You would have thought I got the notification, considering I am subscribed and notified. No shit, he actually did post it. What the hell? Look at me getting breaking news from an Instagram friend. Well, I'll tell you what, he's working on his first faction video for Spruta Saga as well. So keep your eyes peeled on that. I don't know when it'll be ready, but he's finishing up some shooting today, I think it was. So he'll be doing that. I'm not going to spoil too much here, but if you're a fan of Chaos, you will be a very big fan of his first faction introduction. Oh, right, his plan. So, on Spruta Saga, the plan is he, but I'm helping. Every faction that he premieres on his channel is all going to be homebrewed. So the idea is every faction that he talks about is a homebrew faction. Pretty much of any faction you could think of within Age of Sigmar, but he's also going to expand it to 40k with the old world. I think he was talking about doing like Blackout, Trench Crusade, the whole nine. And the idea is eventually he wants to do narrative campaigns / crusades where the lore of the homebrew faction is affected by the outcomes of the crusade and narrative campaigns. So you can make alliances with other like chaos factions, or if you're an order, make alliances with other order factions, declare war, declare peace, and every battle that you play out will carry over in the lore. So depending on the faction, you know, if a character dies, like a named character dies, they could be dead forever. So you have to build a new character and a new character model, and the idea is eventually, I know for the 40k side of things, but eventually let the viewers through Patreon kind of dictate the future and the course of some of those factions as well. So we've kind of been spitballing like they can vote on directions that the factions take within the narrative, like in the diplomacy section or something like that, or you know, what battles they choose to fight in, or who to declare war on, and things like that, which I think would be really cool, personally. So, I've been working on my Carriage and Overlords, which you saw way back when. It's come along quite a ways, actually. I've almost got 1,200 points now, I think, of Carriagens. And he's doing Stormcast and a couple of Chaos factions I'm going to keep under lock and key for now, because I don't know if he wants to talk about it yet. As well as like my friend Edward, or his friend and my friend Edward, he's doing like Soulblight Gravelords, right? So the idea is like you know, anybody who's a friend that he invites into it can build their own homebrew faction and lore. And, you know, if we can't play physically, you know, together, we could play over like Tabletop Simulator or something from a distance, or get together and play and do battle reports. And I think that would just be a really cool idea. Let the viewers dictate the future of the story of these homebrewed factions. So we've created this miniverse, if you will, where we are relatively unaffected by the big lore stuff that happens in 40k and AOS. I know, like, my Imperial Knight house is in its own sector that's, like, cut off thanks to the Seekadrix Maledictum in the Imperium Nihilus. And my Caradrins are, like, sky pirates, so they raid and steal from other Caradrin overlords and whatnot. I think my wife's even getting involved. She's got some Ideneth Deepkin that she's been working on. Well, I say she's been working on. She's built 2 models, or 1.5. And she works on the lore with me when I finally make her sit down and whatnot and work on it. But she's actually been enjoying it quite a bit. Oh yeah, no, they're gonna be great. Right now I've got my gun hauler, my ironclad dreadnought, and my Argonaut frigate finished. I've got to get... It's in sub-assembly right now. I've got to get my Endrin Riggers finished, my Endrin Master finished, my Grunstock Thunderers, and my Argonaut Company. Oh, and I think I have an Argonaut Admiral too. But I'm going to get those finished hopefully soon. I just wanted to work on the Knights to build up to get to the Porphyria, but as soon as I'm done, I'm getting back down into it. I'd even show you my paint setup, but right now the craft room is destroyed. I'm in the process of moving a lot of my stuff in here to the game room in front of my PC. I won't be able to do my, like, airbrushing in here, but... even working on, well, once my wife's okay with me spending that much money, doing a City of Sigmar based off of the old Dwarven holds from Warhammer Fantasy. My plan is to take the models from the Dwarven armies from the old world and actually build them in such a way that would be compatible with the old world and the Age of Sigmar. I don't know if there's a common theme here, but I love dwarves. I think fantasy dwarves are awesome. So it'll be no shock to know that when I build a Chaos army, I will be building Chaos dwarves. The one thing about doing freaking mold lines on a big model like this, I swear, is the amount of plastic dust you make. There we go. So that's most of the torso finished. what about you? Anybody out there do any homebrewing or do anything like that for Warhammer? I'd love to hear if anyone's got any custom factions or anything that they've created, because I find that stuff fascinating, personally. It is. This is a desk vacuum that my grandmother ended up accidentally giving me in a... I picked up a piece of sprue. Giving me in a game of White Elephant. Basically like Secret Santa, but you're not picking it for a specific person. Everyone just brings like a cheap gift. And let me tell you, this thing came in clutch for me the last couple of days. I have been making... hold on. God bless it. That's my ringtone for Josh. He just tried to call me. Oops. My camera is my phone. I can't answer that. Where was I? Oh yeah. So this thing is actually coming to like massive clutch for me. I've been working on basing in the background for the last couple of days. See if I can find where I put that. And I've been working on using like rocks for dynamic posing. And let me tell you, corkboard is a great product to work with until you have to file it down. That is the messiest thing in the world. Oh well, I can't find it. It doesn't matter. So this thing, I've made so much cork dust, and I was covered in it. Covered in like my entire workspace. This thing is coming clutch. I did not know I needed something like this. I don't know how much this is. I think it's like 20 bucks or so. Not sponsored. It is fantastic. You just pop it off, dump it out, spray out your air filter inside of it. Keeps your workspace mostly clean. It's fantastic. I love it. So, if you can find something like it, it's great. Because I don't know if you do a lot of work with mold lines. I make plastic dust go everywhere. I hate it. So, whatever I can do to avoid having to deal with plastic dust, I will do. Okay, 109. Hello, hon. Hello. Puppy. I don't think it's on this one, actually. Oh, it is. Okay, I'm just right in front of my face. Yeah, I do the same thing usually, but like I said, I just happened to get this at Christmas. It happened that nobody wanted to steal it from me, and I ended up going home with it, and I was like, you know what, this is actually a pretty cool little thing. I didn't realize how much of a lifesaver this is. It's not perfect, but it gets the worst of things picked up, which is great. I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff with resins, so I'm going to have to wear a respirator, but that's going to come in handy. Let me send a message real quick over the Discord, since I cannot answer. There we go. So, anyway. I'm actually really excited to do some basing stuff. I've had some really, I think, good ideas for basing when it comes to a lot of these nights. I'm thoroughly of the opinion, and Josh and I were talking the other day about what makes a model good, which they sound like the intro to his video, which I've heard hundreds of times, and it's a really good script he wrote. But in my mind, you have two things, right? You can have a really good paint job, or you can have, like, a really cool pose. If you do something different with your model, it's going to stand out. And I may not be the greatest painter in the world. I've only painted a handful of models in my life. But I will say this.
I can probably get away with a pretty okay paint job because I'm working my butt off to make my knights look really interesting when it comes to pose. So I have a lore reason why I'm posing the way I'm posing them. So I'm gonna have some way, shape, or form Nurgle demons just somewhere on the base if I can. For example, the Knight Errant with the sword, I want to have him crushing like a Nurgling under his foot. For the Preceptor, I'm gonna have like a few dead Nurglings with the base. My wife said I can get another knight, soon, and I want to get a Gallant, which has got the big Thunder Fist and the Chainsword, so it's like a pure melee knight. But the reason I want it is there's a pose that I think will just look amazing for it. There was I think it's like a short story or something, where a Gallant sprints up to an enemy Baneblade. I think it's like a traitor Baneblade, and he punches through the armor plating with his fist, grabs the tank commander, pulls him out, holds him up in front of the face of the knight, and then he blares his war horn like he's screaming at him, which like bursts his eardrums, and then slowly crushes him to death in the fist. And I was like, oh man, that's a really freaking metal story. Hey, I have an idea. Why don't I do the same thing with my Gallant, but instead of doing like punching through a tank and whatnot, I have him crushing a Nurgling in his hand. So it's like a Nurgling or a Death Guard, one of the two. And I just thought that would be like really freaking cool. I also have some like 30 gauge copper wire that I got based off of like Ninjon's video he did about El Miniaturista on Instagram, and I love El Miniaturista. And I was going to use that to make like electrical effects. So I've got the 30 gauge copper wire that I was going to use to have like electricity arcing off of the fist, and on the Nurgling, everywhere or the Death Guard, whichever it is, wherever the lightning is striking the mini, I'm going to like use the Fantic here to cut holes in the body like it's being disintegrated by the electricity. And I think that'll just look amazing. See something like that on the tabletop, I feel like a lot of people be like, I've never seen anything like that. That's really cool. So even if my paint job's mediocre, I've got this really cool dynamic pose. Because I'm going to be honest with you, when it comes to knights, especially Questoris knights, other knights like models have typically a better stancing. Almost every single knight that's Questoris, or even a Dominus, like a Castellan or a Valiant, they're stuck in this pose. So this is what I call like high noon cowboy pose, like duelist pose. Like they're ready to go to a duel. They've got the guns out like this, and they're standing with their legs far wide apart. So they're either like this, or the torso is rotated 90 degrees, and with the base, it looks like he's surfing. So you're stuck with surfer or cowboy. Those are your only two stances that a Questoris ever comes in. So doing just a little bit to change that pose, whether, I cut the shins off of the knight, which is a pain in the neck, but it looks good when you glue it together. You can repose it. Just doing that, like this guy's just taking a step, like that's more interesting than this standard Questoris pose. And it's just doing something a little bit like that, even if you have him like foot on a flat rock, so you're not having to bend the toes or anything. It just makes it look more dynamic, which gives it more personality on the table. I don't know. I may be off base, but I think that's pretty fair. Yes. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, right? Like, it's just cowboy or surfer. That's the only two poses that the knights come in. It's the funniest thing. you'd have to ask my dad. Like, I got my Dominus, my Castellan, I think a year before I met my wife. So I got my Castellan and my Armatures like a year before I met my wife, and I was building them in my dad's living room at the time. And you know, it's not embarrassing to admit. I lived with my parents for a while after I lost my job, and they helped me put me through school. And I was building them in the living room, and he was watching me build them. And I was like, I don't know why I do this to myself, because I had to like repose the leg on an Armature to make it look like it was sprinting, because I also hated the poses that the Armatures come in. And I have to say, once it was all said and done, I think the Armatures look great. Some of them I kept in the basic pose, because I didn't want to do it to every single one. I've got 4 of them, 2 Warglaves and 2 Helverins. But the ones I did change of the pose on, I think they look so much better. Just a little bit, you know? And I get it. GW's trying to be conscientious of new people coming into the hobby and stuff, but I feel like if you're buying an Imperial Knight, like, I wasn't new to the hobby. I hadn't built in a few years, but I feel like you should be able to have expert level kits instead of having to have this holding your hand through it. I swear, after I built my Cerastus Acheron, I thought I was gonna lose my mind because I had to do so much to make the poses dynamic, but the only thing you have to correct for GW is cut the tabs off, and then you're like, oh my god. Like, you're having to build, like, I don't know if anyone's done that, but these pistons on these legs, they come like this on the Questoris and the Castellan. You actually put the pistons together and adjust their length as you need on a Cerastus Knight. It's awesome. It's also stressful as hell, but it's awesome. And I wish the Questoris and the Dominus were like that. There we go. One more. Wait, that was done. Are these all done? Did I do all? I thought I only did 3 of them. Nope, they're all done. Okay, perfect. Let me just launch that piece across the board. There we go. 1 down, 1 to go. I don't know if anyone has looked into a game called Blackout. I don't know if you have either, Final. If you haven't, I have to say I've been looking at it recently. It's a more traditional, I'd say modern, since it's set in like the near future. It's like the 2100s. Military tabletop skirmish game. It's not a war game per se, where you're fighting army on army and squad on squad. Those models are looking really nice. I was telling Josh about it today, or I should probably start calling him Spruce Saga. I was telling Spruce Saga about that today, and he loves Titanfall. I don't know if you know him for any sort of time, he loves Titanfall. His text tone every time you send him a text message is dropping now, prepare for Titanfall. And it's been that way for years. I looked at the mechs in that game, and they look legally distinct from Titans from Titanfall. If anyone's a fan of Titanfall out there, and you're like, I wish I had more of that in my life and not Apex Legends, let me tell you, there is a tabletop skirmish game called Blackout you should look out. It's spelled B-L-K-O-U-T. So... instructions just to talk about Cowboy versus Server, and I forgot I still needed them. Okay, so it's 107, 102, 125, and 37.
You know what, Final? Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day, man. Thank you for stopping by. Really, I really do appreciate it. And I'll let you know when I get closer to posting the video ahead of time, brother man. And I look forward to seeing your latest Instagram reel.
Final Gaming, everybody. If you have not watched his channel at all or any of that, you should absolutely do it. He's a great creator, super wholesome, and one of the nicest people I've ever met on the internet. Truly.
Grab the other sprue now. That's my one complaint with you, Games Workshop. I've got a lot of complaints with Games Workshop, but right now, they don't always label their sprues, and it drives me absolutely batshit crazy. There it is. Okie dokie. To cut from this side, I think. Here we are. I am really excited to get this Defender put together. I thought the kit just looked really good when I saw it. Of course, I know it's just essentially a different weapons layout. It's the same kit as always, but I have to say, the idea of putting a void shield on a Questor's Knight is just really cool. I know it doesn't work exactly like a void shield's supposed to in the tabletop, but it is pretty interesting to me. That just happened. Knocked off one of my lamps. Oops. I'm a very smart person, I swear. Very professional operation I'm running here. There we go. Parts of this hobby is how encouraged it is to do things like homebrewing, for example. You know, custom made like Space Marine chapter is honestly one of like the best things about this hobby, and the way that they try to accommodate fan creations is truly a heartwarming endeavor. I wish GW was willing to accept those fan-made creations a lot more. But hey, if Project Astartes is anything to go by, go out there and make a kick-ass animation that makes that you look practically incompetent.
then you too can have your, well, I say you look practically incompetent, GW looking practically incompetent, then you too can have your homebrew creation added to canon. I must admit, that is one of the funnier things to me. That Project Astartes made GW so self-conscious about their own animations that they decided to shut down all fan animations on YouTube. At least we have creators out there like What You Drawing that tells them to screw off. There we go. So, I'm gonna build this Knight Defender. I still have to think about exactly what I want the pose to be once it's all said and done. I've got the legs pretty much figured out. I have that avenue solid. But, what do I want the upper torso to be doing? And I think I'm going for kind of like this gun forward casual walking pose. So like one arm forward. I think that'd be kind of cool. Do that with, I think I want to do that with the plasma. Is it the eviscerator? The plasma eviscerator? Whatever it is. It's so many different names for basically the same plasma weapon. But do that with the plasma cannon rather than the conversion beam? Maybe? Still not entirely sold on that, but we'll see how it goes. Something that seems relatively stupid is I have to figure out what mask I want to put on it. If I want to put a mask on it, but I think I do. I think I like the mask helmets quite a bit. And then I don't know what's going to happen with the Destrier kit when it comes out. I don't know how expensive it's going to be, but I need one. Probably because I'm not going to take all 4 armatures. But having a Destrier or 2 might actually be the meta thing to do for Knights. Not that I chase meta very often. I'm playing Knights, for God's sakes. We're ranked 25th out of 28. It's a race to the bottom. And knowing GW, they're going to stay at the bottom for at least 2 editions. Because, not that I paid much attention to 10th edition when it first came out, but apparently Knights dominated in the meta for a long time. Which is ultimately shocking to me, because I think the biggest problem with Knights is their lack of objective control. That's not bad. It's not my favorite, but it's not bad. Okay. thing my mother thinks is the funniest named tool in any model maker's kit when it comes to this kind of plastic. And that is Sprugu. Maybe. Maybe I'm gonna need Sprugu. This is getting pretty gunky here. At least I had some already on the brush. Okay. Now this is pod racing. This is actually a really nice consistency. I've thinned this out a lot. If you ever make Sprugu for yourself, do yourself a favor. Err on the side of thinner than thicker, because once you make it too thick, it becomes a pain in the butt to use, I have to admit. Ways to use Sprugu, especially if it's thick. I don't know why I said that like it had 3 C's on it, but put some Sprugu down, and then you go back over it. Hey, what's going on? Skylar Productions is in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Alright. We're on the risk of overworking this just a little bit. Should be fine. There we go. I've made this way too thick. Just FYI, again, keep it on the thinner side, because every time I pull the brush out, I have this tiny, thin, almost smaller than a hair line of melted plastic, and it will stick to your plastic, and you have to... Nice. Working in the office and watching the stream, eh? Well, I'll make sure to watch my language. You know, I don't know, Skylar, what exactly do you do? Set this down yet. Oops. Just have to scoop some up and wash it off. There we go. That's a little better. Boom. Alright, there's the back. Now, let's go ahead and get the chest plate. Currently working in the courthouse. Nice. It's gotta be a lot better than working in the kitchen in a detention center. I say that. I actually really like my job a lot. Long and storied career, going from catering on movie shoots to not working, working in a senior living center. Not a retirement home, and not an assisted living center. A a senior living center. I was unaware there was a difference. I gotta stop doing that. I'm just gonna keep DSPing this stream if I keep coughing or sniffling my nose. There we go. The last thing I want to be is DSP. Although if I have $10,000 to throw away on a mobile game, that would be a nice level of disposable income, but you know, some of us have to have pride. Good to see you. I actually just finished talking with somebody that I follow on Instagram, discovered through Instagram, called Final Gaming. I don't know if you're familiar with the channel. I don't know if you can see the previous messages in the chat or not. Great guy, by the way. Does a lot of good hobby content. Yeah. Pride does not pay the bills. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, listen, if you can get caught doing nasty things on camera by accident and still have a career, you know, to quote the internet, DSP will outlive us all. There could be a nuclear war and DSP will still be live streaming when everyone else is dead and gone. Yeah, honestly, Final's one of the nicest people I've ever met on the internet. I cannot stress out his channel enough. He is such a good guy. Love his content. He's so wholesome about it. When I first started posting lore videos, I made a couple of reels on Instagram, and he liked them and followed them. But when I started making lore content, he started promoting my stuff like crazy, and he's one of the nicest people. I forget there's a pretty significant delay on the stream versus when I'm actually broadcasting. So if I'm flopping back, that's not English, flopping back and forth between two different topics, I apologize. There we go. Nope. Wrong side. There we go. Well, if you start hearing growling or howling or hissing, I deeply apologize. The puppy and the cat are playing once again. I took the puppy today to get his final round of vaccinations. I had to give him a booster today. Let me tell you, that dog is a pop star down there at the vet. Everybody, like every vet, every nurse, as soon as they saw him come through the door, they had to sit down and pet him and play with him, and they all remembered his name. And I'm sitting there like, damn, way to go, Han. Pulling all the ladies just by being cute and adorable, and that's all that's necessary. Just hold this here. Yeah, I'm very excited to get these painted up. I am thinking about enrolling in some LGS tournaments. There's a place here in Oklahoma in a city called Edmond Unplugged. I got two cats. The vet, yes, the vet loves him, and the problem is he loves cats because my wife has a cat. When we got married and moved in, you know, she brought her cat Trip. And funny story, actually, I say funny. This is a little bit heartbreaking, then later funny. She saved Trip. Apparently, you know, there's a mommy cat that had given birth to a litter of kittens. and there was a dog that would frequent, I guess brought up by the owner or was a stray, I'm not entirely clear on the details there, that found the mommy cat, and the dog was trying to play, and unfortunately the mother and most of the litter did not survive, and she pried her cat Trip Hazard. Sorry, my wife's talking in there. Pried Trip Hazard from the dog's mouth, and Trip has been weird about dogs ever since. I mean, he's too young to remember what happened, but he doesn't like dogs. We bring the puppy home, and my wife's worried about, he's mellowed out with my dog, Chewy. And we brought Han home, and she was a little worried about how Han was going to react to a puppy. Same day, we thought that Han and the cat, they were like playing, but we thought Han was accidentally hurting Trip because Trip kept making these weird, loud noises. Turns out, no, because every time we got onto the puppy, the cat would chase after the puppy and attack the puppy in play, and then wouldn't run away when the dog was done chewing on the cat. So they now play regularly, and they're very loud about it. And now that the dog's gotten bigger, Trip's not happy because he can't bully the puppy as much as he used to be able to. So he does these like hit and run tactics, which is the cutest thing ever. But when they play, you swear to God, he's killing that cat, because I don't know that Trip knows how to be quiet when playing. Just howling and everything. But it is the cutest thing ever. I never thought in a million years, my wife never thought in a million years, that not only would her cat like another dog at all, but would regularly activate play with the puppy whenever, like instigate. And it is the most heartwarming thing. Yeah, I know, wild turn of events. A heartbreaking story that ends on a happy note, but it starts out pretty rough. But yeah, Trip loves that dog and regularly plays with him on his own accord, which is amazing. Also, Trip Hazard. I mean, it's not the funniest name for a cat I've ever heard. Bong Water is probably the funniest one. Yeah. I mean, some cats just don't know how to sound like they're not trying to actively murder you when they play, and that's okay. I had a cat of my own at one point in time. I'm not a huge cat person. I said never again after my cat passed. And here I am, married, and we have another cat. My wife's talking about getting another one, and I'm kind of okay with it. She wants to get an orange tabby, which I think between that cat and the puppy, there might be two brain cells. Holy moly. What are you doing? Oh, hey, Chewy. Come here. Don't go. Are they being loud in there? Yeah. Oh, hi, Han. You can hardly say one dog's name without getting the other one's attention. Chewy boy, can you lay down? No, you want to sniff my elbow? You can't like that. That's... Okay. I didn't say anything, Skylar. Thank you for saying you're glad he found a safe home. Honestly, we wanted to give Han a really, really good life as best as we could as a dog. We had a scare when we first got him. I guess one of the dogs had passed, and said it was distemper, or at least the woman said that the vet said it was distemper. So we had to like really keep Chewy safe and separate the dogs, and we were like really scared for a couple of days to see if like Han would make it. His, you know, one littermate is already dead. Turns out this is gonna piss you off because it pissed me off too. The woman said the puppy had distemper, and she was telling she wanted the woman we got the puppies from. That famous line, it would be the last one, cat distribution system shows up. Yeah. Well, so turns out she said the puppy had distemper. She was just trying to get her refund. The dog was euthanized at her request at a vet, and that really pissed me off. And because the woman, you know, that we got Han from, she called me panicking. She was like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. This is what we were told. I'm trying to get information from the vet." She was distraught and sad about what happened. We've actually kept in contact with her. My wife saved her in her phone as Han's biomom, which is the funniest thing to me. We've actually sent her like update videos, like videos of them playing in the backyard, about the first time when it snowed, like what he thought about snow and what he was doing, and we've done our best to show her. She's like, you know what, I really appreciate you guys doing that. You're one of the only people that are sending us this stuff, and it's just nice to know that Han clearly came to a good home, which she did laugh in one of the videos I sent her, because we got Han pretty early, like I think just at 6 weeks, or just after 6 weeks, one of the two. He was learning how to be a cat from Trip, because you would see him get down on his stomach, and he would stomach crawl outside, and you could see him literally pouncing as hard as he could on the snow with his front paws, like he was stalking it. He doesn't do that as much now, but she was really like touched to get those videos, and she was so mad at that woman, and she's reached out to all the other owners, and all the other owners are like, no, everything's fine, they're really happy, and sent them update pictures, which is really nice. Yeah, you got to the bad part of the story. Yeah, it incensed me. I'm not gonna lie to you. Hey! That is enough. Both of you. Sorry about that. Oh, that's sprue goo. I just spilled sprue goo all over my desk. Awesome. Oh, not much. Yeah, you got onto him, didn't you? You got onto him, didn't you? You tried to steal your rope. Okay. We're having a territory fight right now over, okay. Oopsies. There we go. Trying to get these. The one part about this kit, I don't know if it's showing up on camera very well, but there's like slight separation in here between this frame and the actual like torso itself. I'm trying to fill it in with as much sprue goo as I can to make it seem seamless, but it may not work out in my favor. And there's Han in the background. There we go. Okay. Come on now. This is one of the only other parts of this kit I'm not a huge fan of, is getting these to conjoin. It's not always the easiest to get them to line up like they need to. There we go. I think that'll do it. Okay, sorry about that. Had, well, dogs were being dogs, as they tend to do. So I had to go assist my wife real quick. Thank you all very much for your patience. It is very much appreciated. Okay. One of the reasons I think Sprugu is one of the best tools for someone to have in something like this situation is very much because it can fill gaps, because there's going to be some gaps on the torso here, which it's part of the game, unfortunately, and it's not like these knight kits are that old. Well, actually, come to think of it, was it 2018? No way, hold on. Oh my god, it's been 12 years? Holy crap, I feel old. Jesus, it's been 12 years, holy shit. Whew, okay, alright, well now I feel old. I mean, I am. I guess I turned 32 this year, so I'm kind of staring down that barrel anyway. Thank you. Yeah, unfortunately, puppies are puppies. What happened was, one, it was time to feed the animals anyway. And my wife was taking a nap, and the animals were waking her up. And then two, my dog Chewy, when we moved in, you know, we had rope toys that Chewy had, and he loved rope toys. He would just carry them around, chew on them. He likes to play tug of war and fetch with them. Han is a kleptomaniac. He will steal any toy, holy moly, any toy he can get his hands on. And he tried to steal the rope out of Chewy's mouth while he was playing with his rope. And so Chewy went after Han, and then that's what the yiping was. And then you had my wife yelling at the dog because he wasn't cooperating. It is what it is. Animals are chaos, but in the best possible way. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so there's a lot of gaps that are going to be here in this torso. It's really kind of hard to make out because it's such a narrow corridor here, and there's not a lot of great light. Let me see if I can... That might help as I bump my camera. There's a lot of, like, gapping going on here with the back of this torso and the sides. And Sprugu, essentially, for those who don't know, you just take a bits of sprue that you cut off of the sprue itself, throw in a bottle of your plastic cement. For me, I use Tamiya because it's the gold standard in my opinion. And what it does is it melts it down, and you get this like thick plastic paste. When it hardens and it will dry, it usually takes, depending on how thick it is, a couple of days. For me, about 24 to 48 hours. It'll harden like proper set plastic will. So it'll fill all those gaps in there, and you're not going to see any obvious gaps on the back. I mean, there's a tiny gap right there because I carved into the model ever so slightly that if I really wanted to, I can fill, but I feel like I would do more damage to the surrounding texture with my sprue goo than I would actually fix anything. So I'll just leave that alone. But that's pretty much the major base for the torso. Let me get the paper towels out of the way I was using to wipe my hands from sprue goo earlier. Let's see. Next are the exhaust pipes and whatever that side armor plating is. Okay, let's do it. Now these, I personally find are the most annoying part of this build. I could not explain to you exactly why it's the worst part of this build for me, but it is the worst part of this build for me. So, let me just trim that down real quick. So, for me, you have these two halves of this kit, and there is such an obvious like line where these two meet that it's really hard to make look properly good to me. The other big issue with the other big issue with this part are these damn sprue gates. I mean, they're right here on the edge on a 90 degree, so flat side, curved side. And if you look carefully, I'm gonna hold my knife while I do this because this is the smartest thing I could do. You can see how they're keeping the two halves of the model separate, so you have to trim them down. Yeah, I felt that building my Ravenwing army. I feel like Knight Sprue Goo won't do that much. You know, you're not wrong. It won't do that much damage compared. You're right. I would know it's there, and that's the biggest problem. You know, it's a very tiny gap right there. No one's going to see that, and most likely it'll be covered up with paint. But I could probably get away with doing that and not damage that much. I couldn't imagine doing this to, like, a Terminator. That would just be a nightmare. But yeah, so I'm going to have to trim this part down. Now, if I can do this just right, I can do that without cutting into the model. The way I've managed to figure this out is I hold the blade flat and I tilt it forward ever so slightly. And I'm not putting any pressure here. I'm just letting the blade cut the piece. I'm going to try to do the same thing to the other side. Let's see. It's kinda better. One of the ways I find that makes doing this, where you have one clear, like 90-degree side, where it just cuts off because of the way the sprue lays, is pushing them together as hard as you can. Pushing them together as hard as you can with your fingers, and I'm just laying the knife on top, and I'm not pushing any pressure down, really. I'm just holding it there, and I'm slowly pulling the blade forward. And it kind of smooths out the plastic that you're trying to cut without cutting into the model itself. Because I cannot tell you how annoyed I am with my other knights. That you can see I've carved into where the sprue gate was, into the model. And I've done what I can to kind of fix that. But it's still kind of obvious what happened. There we go. That feels pretty smooth. Let's do the backside, which is probably what's causing me my biggest issue. You know, on the models being old thing, at least I can confidently say I don't remember when the Eldar launched. Like the new Eldar models, quote unquote. Because I think what the last time they were updated was like 2004. Just like I wasn't in the hobby then, so I don't have the ability to say I remember when that happened. So I don't get to feel that old. You know, I discovered this artist, Thief, a while back. And I have to say, there's just something about his music that's just... What the hell is it? What are you doing? Hi. Oh, we got zoomies. That's what's going on. We've got zoomies from a 40-pound puppy. Goodness gracious. Hey, both of you. No, you're not in trouble. Just stop growling at him right behind me, please. Thank you. Sorry. Okay. boy. Hopping on Space Marine 2. Thank you, Steam notifications. I deeply appreciate you. Okay. That's starting to feel pretty good. Okay. Let's see if I can get you glued down. It's going to be a tricky way to do this. Which Eldar models didn't GW? Yeah, so Eldar were sort of kind of updated. They have released new models for them overall. I think it's Craft World Eldar, for the most part, are still rocking some old models. They have a couple of new ones that have come out. Yeah, Drukari, I don't think have gotten much updates at all. Unfortunate. And then you got the Harlequins, which are no longer a faction, which is a shame, but model-wise, I think they're still the 04 models. But they look pretty good, all things considered. But like old Craft World, like they have some new models, but as a range, as a whole, they have not been refreshed in quite some time. At least that's my understanding. I could be way off base. I'm not an Eldar player. I wouldn't know. I'm pretty basic when it comes to 40k. I like a lot of the new stuff. Knights, which I know technically aren't that new, but new enough, in my opinion. Space Marines, obviously, with the refresh back in 2016, with the launch of 8th and Primaris Marines, which is a shame because I still think Firstborn are best. Yes, I am that guy. Let's see. Leagues of Votann. I'm a dwarf guy. I love dwarves. And Space Dwarves, you've got my attention. So, the Leagues of Votann are pretty solid in my book, which means, again, relatively new faction, under 5 years old. I'm in. See, now I've not done anything here, and I still got gaps down here, which is a shame. There we go. Nice gap fill there. You know, I say that about the Drukari, and I still do. I mean, some of the models are still pretty rough, in my opinion. But I have to say, I think, depending on the paint job that you do, they could be nice. I mean, I watched, Miniac's video that he did, the Miniature Maniac, when he did his Drukari paintings. Took him a long time, but I think he made them look pretty solid. You know, sometimes a good paint job can hide like bad model design or, you know, old model design. But also vice versa. You know what could hide a mediocre paint job? It's a really dynamic pose that you don't see on a model very much, and that's something I've really strived to try to do with all of my knights, is give them some kind of dynamism to their pose. And I think the Defender's probably going to be my weakest. Well, I say weakest. It's my weakest Questoris knight. My weakest knight's probably my Castellan, because all I did was bend one toe to make it look like he was taking a step. Could have done better, but you live and you learn. I built him well over a year and a half ago, 2 years ago now. Haha. Okay. But yeah, I think having a dynamic pose that you don't normally see in a model really does do a lot of heavy lifting if you're not a confident painter. I'm not a confident painter. I have not painted that many models in my lifetime. I do my best to paint really, really well. I've watched, you know, what's that TikTok girl? There's a girl out there on TikTok who like wrote a fantasy book, and she claims like she's a master author because she always quotes that. What is it? Like 10,000 hours to master something. And she's like, well, I've spent over 10,000 hours writing this one book. So clearly I'm a master of my craft. I'm like, well, I think you're missing the point. But by that same logic from her, I'm a master painter because I must have watched at least 10,000 hours of like painting tutorial videos on YouTube. I've watched so much of like Pete the Wargamer or Eons of Battle, Miniac, Ninjon, Torvarian Miniatures, Zumiko. Who else have I seen? I've seen a lot of people. I used to watch Tabletop Time back in the day. I do not watch them anymore. So, I guess by the same logic, I'm a master painter. So, if you want to go ahead and give me my Golden Demon GW and the Slayer Sword, I'd greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much. That's how that works, right? You just claim you're the best at something, and then you are. To done with this bit here. Falling into the same trap I was falling into earlier. I need to be very careful about how much I shave away. This is a really good one. What song is this one? I'd love to know. This is In the Secret Glade. Oh, okay. Of the Shy Dryad. Nice. Again, not affiliated, but if you like the artist that you're listening to, his name is Fief. F-I-E-F. Fief. Really, really solid dungeon synth. Very whimsical and very laid back. Okay. Not bad, not bad. Okie dokie. Let's get to it. Squidmar. Oh, yeah. I like Squidmar quite a bit. You know, there was a trap Squidmar fell into ever so slightly around the time he finished his Tau Manta diorama that he did, which was really good. I really liked it. He started to get a little clickbaity, but I think he's pulled it back quite a bit. And I have to say, while I don't watch him as much as I used to, my buddy Josh from Sprue to Saga, he introduced me to the video that was done by the other guy on Squidmar. I forget his name. Really good painter. He did his like Black Templar stuff, and he actually did a Black Templar inspired Imperial Knight, and it looked really good. I don't know how he managed to get a second like Thunder Gauntlet hand to hold that banner, because you can only, according to the kit, only have it for one side. So I don't know if it's like 3D printed or not, but it looked really good. Like holding the sword and the banner of the Emperor and such. Oh my gosh, it looked fantastic. And that's just another channel that makes me feel really self-conscious about my painting skills, because Squidmar and the whole gang, they do a fantastic job. I am blown away. Not that they need it from a dude with 174 subscribers, but shout out to Squidmar Miniatures, because Squidmar, you guys do great work. I managed to get my thumbprint on the bottle because I was dumb and got in a hurry. Good news. It's an easily fixable problem when you have a chemical that melts plastic. Fun fact. Lucas, yes, or Lukas. I forget the Swedish pronunciation, but he does a fantastic job. I love both of them. They do really good work. And like I said, I only stopped briefly because I think they've really turned it back from the whole clickbaity side of things, but they do fantastic work. I mean, their kit bashes, conversions, and paintings are just chef's kiss. They do fantastic work. I'm a little jealous. Not bad. 2 hours in, I managed to finish the armor plating on the legs, and I managed to finish most of this torso. I'm going to go ahead and get the last 2 armor pieces done, and then I think I'm going to have to call it there. But let's at least get those 2 pieces on. Wrong sprue. You think I'd remember that? Or is it? Is it the wrong sprue? Yep, straight up the wrong sprue. Which sprue do I need? It's C. I thought that was C. Oh. Of course, the piece for the torso is on the pieces with the weapons. Of course, that makes perfect sense. How dare I doubt the genius of James Workshop? Oop, almost dropped my god hand tweezers. Or nippers, excuse me. There we go. You know, honestly, one of the channels I've really gotten into here lately was Mini Wargaming Dave. I really like his channel quite a bit, and, you know, it is criminal how few subscribers that man's channel has, in my opinion. I mean, obviously, it's, like, infinitely bigger than mine. What is he at? Actually, I'm very curious. Yeah, there, Mini Wargaming Dave. What are we at? 54,900 subscribers. Genuinely fantastic channel. It is criminal how few subscribers that channel has. I remember saying that about when I was really big into the tabletop RPG side of things, about a channel called Seth Skorkowski. Now I think they're like, Seth's at 100,000 or close to 100,000. At the time, he was like 20, 15. It was a really small amount, and he does great content. And I remember commenting on one of his older videos that sorry, I that he has very little subscribers for the content that he puts out. He does some really good stuff. And I'm really sorry to see... Well, I say sorry to see that Mini Wargaming Dave's getting the same treatment, because I think he deserves to have way more subscribers than he does, with as much like positivity that he puts out into the hobby space. Thanks to him, I was introduced to El Mini Turista on Instagram, and Benny Crafts, Alchemist Models, Heresy is My Therapy. Just a lot of really great creators on Instagram that I found because of Mini Wargaming Dave. And he does such a good job for the community. And I love his, like... He's got the largest collection of Chaos Space Marines. I think he's got, like, something like 30,000 points or something. Or, no, 300,000 points. I can't remember. It's a massive number. And he brought the dude who has the largest orc collection in 40k, and they did a big, like, battle narrative campaign with 300,000 points, I think, between Chaos Space Marines and orcs, and it looked like a lot of fun. Have you ever seen someone dump a bucket of dice? I have seen this. It scares me in the best possible way. Freaking mold lines, man. There we go. There we go. Well, I suppose I could probably go ahead and get the face. No, I think I'm going to save it. I think that's what we're going to call it for now. I've got a pretty good, solid basis here for my defender. I think this is looking really good. I'll figure out how I want to glue the torso on later. I want to let this cure. And then come back, put the head on, put the faceplate on, and then connect it back to the rest of the torso. And I think we're making pretty solid progress here. So I think for tomorrow, I will save that. I'll do the face and everything tomorrow on stream. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Actually, I really do appreciate it. Thank you for, Skylar and Final for coming in, saying hi, and posting in the chat. I really do appreciate it. I plan to try to make these streams a regular thing on Wednesdays and Thursdays and Saturday evenings. We will see if life will be conducive to that, but I'm off every Wednesday and Thursday pretty typically, so I should be able to stream on these days, no problem. So I look forward to seeing anybody tomorrow if anyone wants to stop by and say hi. But thank you again for tuning in and watching me work on the Night Defender today, and I will see you guys tomorrow. If you liked what you saw, I appreciate a like on the stream. If you didn't like what you saw, I really do appreciate you tuning in and staying this long as it is. So, thank you guys.